don't see it any other way. I'm too weak to make the climb. I need a miracle this time. That's when
Good afternoon. My name is Donna Fiesel, and I'm your host of Afternoon Drive Home on IC in Christ Radio. We're your source for news and entertainment. You can also find us on television, channel 182 locally, North Alabama, channel 182 on Charter Communications. And I didn't tell Tricia this, but Tricia, you're on worldwide television now. We are on Oh, yeah. You're going to have a lot of folks watching you today. Abundant TV, which is also found on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. It's so good to be with Tricia Hopper today. She is with ISGAP. This is a guardianship program for Marshall County, and I've known Tricia for a long time. Me and her's best buds. And she comes to the house and tells me stuff about You remember when you came one time and I said, we have 2 front doors. What's that about?
Yes.
And you said, we bought my grandparents' old home place. And I was like, why do they always have 2 doors? And one of the doors was Mother's bedroom. And I figured that she probably slipped out and went on dates and they didn't know about it, because that front door was right there in her bedroom. But anyway, you said it was for air circulation, and you knew about that. So anyway, Tricia has a remarkable program out there. So you're going to have some folks who are listening to you for the very first time. So let's explain what the guardianship program is.
All right. The Marshall County Guardianship Program was formed in 2009, and it is a program that provides volunteers from the community to be guardians for adults with disabilities or for the elderly people who do not have anybody to be their guardian. The baby boomers getting older, now silver tsunami, some chose not to have children, some chose to move away, find better jobs, so that left elderly parents with no one to take care of them, or as the baby boomers aged, no one to take care of them. So it has become a great need across the country. And in our county of Marshall County, the probate judge and some attorneys got together and decided we needed some type of program to provide guardians for those individuals.
Absolutely. Now the GAP is the GAP GAP. Now, is this a name that's particularly just for our area? Because we're talking with folks in all 50 states right now. Would there be something similar to that in other areas?
In some of the states, they have a program statewide. I believe Kansas does. Not sure about California, but there were a couple of states that we patterned our program after. So in your area across the country, there may be a program that you could Google or look up and see on the internet if there's a program like this. There are some programs that pay you to be the guardian, but ours is strictly volunteer.
Mm-hmm. Now let's talk about your role with GAP Guardianship Program. What do you do? And how long have you been doing this?
I've been doing this since 2017 as the executive director. I became a guardian over an individual in 2014, which is what got me started and interested in the program. I was called about, I used to teach school, especially a class, and I was called about one of my former students, and I just said, yeah, I'll be his guardian, not thinking what that meant. And so I was lucky that they had a training that I could go to and learn what I needed to know about being his guardian. And now I have 4. That's not a good thing for everybody to have. They usually say 2 is the limit that you can really do what you need to do. But my individuals, 2 of them were my students, and they're all adults with disabilities and living in group homes. So they're not really that much for me to do except make sure they're healthy. And then, I tell my guardians that your job is to make sure they're safe, they're healthy, and the quality of life they want to live, not what you want them to have, but what they want.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes we think we know better, but it's just like going to the doctor. You know your body better than the doctor does, but it's up to you to kind of tell them what the ailments are. I wanted to point out to everybody is not only Tricia, and she just mentioned this, not only is she the executive director, she volunteers too.
Yes. Yes, that's how I got started. And I have a couple of my board members are guardians also. So that's kind of nice. And my board is made up of DHR workers, made up of circuit court assistants, probate court assistants. I have a finance person on there, who knows about conservatorships. And then I have a couple of attorneys on there. So I have a wide variety of people that I can go to and ask questions. Another thing that's happened just since our last election, we got a new probate judge, Andrea LeCroy. She has asked that I train family and friends who have been appointed as guardians. And I've learned that they really don't know either what that entails, and they are very appreciative of the training. And then I'm their point of contact. They can call me, and then I'll reach out to an attorney or the judge or whatever to answer their question. So they don't have to call an attorney, pay that $50 or $100 for 30 minutes on the phone. And I can be their voice to go out and ask questions and come back. And that's good for me, because then I can share it with all my guardians when I find out information. So that makes that a win-win for both of us.
Well, things can happen in an instant. I know Mother fell about 2 weeks ago, and then she was outside in the hot, and she wouldn't listen to me. I'm the mother, by the way. She's the daughter. And so she wouldn't listen to me. And so she falls down, and then had to take her to the doctor. No broken bones, thank God for that. But then she was getting ready to go to the doctor again and fell in the tub. And then she had 2 black eyes. So things can happen in an instant. You think you don't need anybody, and then, I mean, it could have been a lot worse. But you think you're not going to need the services, and then again, you find you do. How can someone get in contact with you if they do need the services for anyone?
Okay. Usually what happens is if someone needs a guardian, they contact Adult Protective Services through DHR, and they come out and they determine the need. And like you were just saying about your mom, had you still been living in North Carolina and that your mom, the neighbors would have said, we haven't seen her in a while, let's do a well check, and they would have checked on her, and then DHR would have got involved and tracked down family. They would have found you so that you could come and help take care of your mom. And if other cases, there's not a you to go look for. So they just kind of keep searching until they can find a family or friend. And then they come to me through the courts and say, do you have a volunteer? And if I say yes, then I always ask that my volunteer go visit with the individual, because it may not be a good personality match. And you want it to be a good relationship. I had one lady that I sent to visit a potential ward, and she walks in the door, and the lady looked at her and said, you look like my ex-mother-in-law. And I thought, well,
that wouldn't be good. Unless it was a good relationship.
Right. So the fact that she went, oh, you look like, I don't think that was it. I want it to be a good match, because it's going to be a relationship. You're going to have to be involved with that person. And a lot of people ask me how much time it takes. That is the number one question. This is not a 30-minute and I'm done. This is a legal document, and you are their legal guardian until you can't do it anymore, or you're not willing to do it anymore. Or if that individual dies, then you're not. And sometimes that individual doesn't need you any longer. So those are the 3 ways that you're no longer needed as a guardian. But most of my people who are volunteers, they stick with it and they become so involved. I've had one lady who's been sick lately, and her guardian has called me. I texted me 3 or 4 times a night going, the nursing home called and said so-and-so, which I'm glad she lets me know what's going on, so that I can let the judge know that, hey, this is coming. We're afraid she's fixing to pass or whatever, and we need to let you know. But sometimes that's hard on my guardians too. They get very attached to these individuals.
Yeah, I can see where that would happen too. Now, I know you're constantly looking for volunteers. Is there I know there's a training session, but you also do background checks?
Yes, we do a background check, and we do a CAN through DHR, and CAN is child abuse and neglect. However, in our legislature this past session, they passed where there will be an adult abuse and neglect paper from
good idea.
Abuse, elderly abuse. And I am tickled to death about that, because there are a lot of abuse cases with elderly nowadays, and I don't want to put someone or put one of our individuals in a situation with someone that might harm them. So I'm kind of excited about that. We do a background check for volunteers, and then we do that abuse and neglect check through DHR.
Yeah, no,
And then they come in for.
I know
Yes.
Jim Ziegler,
Um,
our Alabama state auditor, he is an elder abuse attorney. And so he
oh,
has told me
yes.
things. He said, I mean, he's learned all of the red flags and those kinds of things, So I know you have an attorney there that takes care of those things, but I have heard some things that would make your head spin.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. There were a couple of situations that the Attorney General had to get involved. Most of our cases go through probate court, but if there are going to be charges pressed against someone for abuse or neglect, it'll go through circuit court. And they'll get in prison time or whatever. So there were a few times that probate said, no, we need to pass this one on to circuit because there needs to be something done about this. So, and that's sad. My mom and dad are elderly, and like you said, you end up being the child instead of the adult. I'm the parent, and so I'm constantly, did you get your walking cane? Well, you need to have your walking cane. My mama says she fell out in the yard. Where was your walker? Well, I was trying to pull that stump up, mother. You cannot pull stumps up.
Well, I wanted to ask you a question, because sometimes the elderly, maybe they're getting dementia or something. And what if they report something that didn't happen? I mean, what if they did fall, like really they fell, and then they want to say, maybe they get mad at their daughter or their son and say they did it when they didn't. How do you know?
Right. Right. Well, and that's how we've got good investigators at DHR that come in and start asking lots of questions. And, usually neighbors of elderly people, they may not visit that often, but they keep an eye open. Whether they realize it or not, they are keeping an eye open. And they will say, I've never seen anything like that. Or, she does have dementia and she makes things up. We had one lady that came in and was so upset and distraught. And I'm like, what is going on? And she was crying because she was in that fantasy world with her dementia, and Annette Funicello died, and she was so upset. I mean, she mourned, she grieved.
Yeah.
But that was dementia. And so we thought somebody in the family, the way she was grieving. But yeah, so DHR is wonderful in their investigations, and they ask lots of questions. And then when they get in front of the judge just kind of makes it a personal thing and starts asking questions and can usually figure out what's been going on. I've not really had any issues with that.
That's good, because I'm going to tell you, mother looked pretty rough with those two black eyes. So I got to thinking about that. What if somebody thinks I did it? But anyway, those are always, I would think those are common questions though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I said, the most that I get asked is how much time. And then other times it's the money situation. And volunteer guardians are not required to take care of any monies. That someone else handles the financial part. You're just to take care of their well-being.
Oh,
and that takes a load off of a lot of them. And they'll say, well, okay, I'll be the guardian. I just don't want to deal with their monies.
Yeah, I would do. I'd say hide their money. What if they misplace it? I mean, what if they do something with jewelry or whatever, and so I'm glad that you guys have that in store for everybody. And I was also thinking about, like my son, like you said earlier, my son lives in North Carolina. So, and I had the one, and I just don't want to be a burden on them, so if something happened to me, I'm pretty sure, this would be just a godsend, for the family.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's how I feel too. If I'm good to somebody right now.
Mm-hmm. I think we just lost her. She'll come back in again. Okay, there she is. I think she's coming back in. Okay, there she is.
There I am.
Okay, you probably had a phone call coming in. That's the only thing about using a cell phone is when a phone call comes in, it kind of blocks you off just for a minute. We've got Tricia Hopper with us, amazing lady, and she is with the ISGAP program. It's a guardianship program in Marshall County. And so now, does a person have to reside in Marshall County to be able to use your services?
If they're a ward and need a guardian, they're in Marshall County. If you want to be a volunteer and you live on the outskirts of Marshall County, that would be fine. We've had some that live in DeKalb County. We've had a new volunteer who lives God, is that Coleman or Morgan? She's in Baileyton, right outside of Arab. I'm not sure exactly what county that is. I want to say Coleman, but I may be wrong. But they've come in and said, can we volunteer? Is it okay? We're from another county. And I said, yes, because if the individual lives in Arab nursing home or assisted living in Arab, that's perfect. If the individual's in Crossville nursing home, then that's perfect if you're in DeKalb County. So that works out. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, we don't get to pick and choose our nursing homes. We just have to find where the bed is and place them there. So those things work out at times.
I've known Tricia for a long time, and I've often thought about this. If I had some time to volunteer, and I would like to do that. So if I had some time to volunteer, and you mentioned personalities and things like that, I'd like to get somebody and look after somebody maybe who was a former hippie back in the 60s. I think we'd have a blast.
You would. You certainly would.
And another thing is history that you can learn, and maybe somebody who grew up in the Depression. And because I know some folks right now, they'll say, we're paying a lot of money for gas right now, fuel for your car and all that kind of stuff. But if you talk to anybody from that era, they'll go, honey, you don't know what rough is. And they'll start talking about how they ate mush. Stuff like that, and I'll go, whoa, I guess we don't have it as bad as I'm thinking we do. So, but a lot of things
traded chicken for food.
yeah, they did a lot of bartering back in that day. And that's how I learned about bartering. My grandparents used to do that. And maybe somebody would have like a flour mill. Well, they would barter with somebody at a flour mill to get some flour, trade out meat or something like that. Let's talk just for a minute about how you guys are funded. Maybe you get grants or things like that, but you also have fundraisers, don't you?
Yes, we do. Our main funding is through the United Way of Marshall County. But then we do have fundraisers. We just finished up one on our All-Star Veterans, where we sold stars for $5 and you could write your veteran's name on it. And we hung it on the fence around the Marshall County courthouse with lights on it. It was really pretty. And I hung it on the fence that's around our monuments for our veterans. So it was really neat that out there. And we'll have another one coming up at Christmas time. We're going to start like Thanksgiving and run it through the first of the year. And it's going to be a memory tree or an honor tree. So someone that you love or is special to you, you can buy an ornament and we'll hang their name on the tree for $5. So those are easy and they're fun, and people just like to, let me put my mama's name on there. Let me put my uncle's name on there. So those are just real good fundraisers for us.
What are some things that a company can do? Because, most businesses right now are looking for an outreach and they'd like to have their employees involved. So what's a few ideas for a company that might be listening to you right now?
Well, because we are through United Way, we send them projects that companies can volunteer to do. My project that I always send in is the angel tree. So at Christmas time, we have someone that will buy presents for our individuals to have at Christmas. Like, if they're in the nursing home, they need socks, they need pajamas, they need comfortable clothes. In the group home, a coat, socks, shoes, those kinds of things. And then we try to put down something they enjoy, like they're Alabama fans or they're into music, they like Elvis or things like that. And we've done this for 3 years now. That's our project. And the people are amazing what they get and give to their individuals without ever laying eyes on them. They just are so loving and giving. Sorry, that phone's ringing. But they are just all willing to help us. And other things they could do would be just to tell people about us and get volunteers involved. And, there's other projects. Sometimes we ask for toiletries for our individuals. Sometimes, we may ask, well, if they're in the nursing home, could you donate some money for them to go to the beauty shop every week for a month or something? Yeah.
I thought of another way too, and this is on one of your previous shows, and this was maybe a beautician who could volunteer. And because, maybe you could, it would be you're volunteering, but you never know what kind of business you might get out of it. And it really makes you stand out in the community.
Yes, it does. It really does. And some of our individuals that live in the group homes and still live in their own homes, who maybe are not as mobile as they could be, that's a wonderful idea for them to have that person come to them and say, here, let me do your hair, or let me do your nails, or let me do whatever, because that makes them feel that much more special and they're not so isolated. We all need natural supports. We all need a buddy. And so there's another person that could be their buddy and kind of keep an eye out on them too.
Yeah, I remember Phil's grandmother. She was in a nursing home and she had never had her nails done or anything like that. She just didn't primp. She just didn't do that. But when she got older, there was a lady who would come in and just paint the patient's fingernails and they would just
Mhm.
feel so special.
Oh,
You
yeah. Oh,
know?
yeah. You feel special and you feel pretty.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so many great things you guys do to help the community and to help folks out. Now, you guys have also put family members together, and I've heard you talk about that in recent years, and that's pretty good. And
Yes.
there could be a niece or a
Yes.
nephew or something like that.
Yes, that's Judge LaCroix. She really wants the DHR workers to search and see if she can find any family, because that's usually the best person is someone who's known them. And even if they can't find a family member, she'll ask them to check with their church congregation.
Oh,
There
great.
may be someone in the church that they're very close to that they might be willing to do. We did have a pastor's wife who was a guardian over one of our individuals.
I
So,
think that's an awesome
there's
idea.
all kinds of people to find out there to do these things.
Could
But,
you volunteer just to take people to church or something like that? Because a lot of times they don't have anybody take them to church. Would that be something you could
yeah,
volunteer?
yeah, you could. You really could.
Mhm.
The individuals that live in the group home, they like to go to church. And sometimes if there's 3 or 4 in the house and one doesn't want to go, and you've only got that one staff person, then that kind of limits you on how you can go. So yeah, that would be a wonderful volunteer thing, would be go by and pick them up for church. That'd be wonderful.
You know, something that's asked almost every single time you're on the show, and that's about working as a volunteer. And what if you have been laid off? Can you still draw your unemployment? And
Yes.
you can.
Yes. And then when you go looking for another job, that really helps on your resume to say, I volunteer doing this. And they really look at that to see your um, kindness and maybe your involvement in the community and how well you're involved. Because a lot of our corporate organizations are very involved in our community, and that's what they look for in their employees. So it'd be looking good in your resume.
I think so too. And you know, something I've noticed about Albertville, Alabama, every time I come to Albertville, at least once a week, a new building is being constructed for a business. You guys are growing by leaps and bounds.
Yes, we are.
You
Yes,
got a
we are.
great mayor out there. I'm gonna tell you, I don't know how he's getting all that business, but he's going out there and grabbing it and bringing it in. So
I
what
know.
that does, when your area, when your community starts growing, folks start moving in from out of town. And
Yes.
as being a person who moved from Alabama to North Carolina, Phil took a job promotion, several years ago, and that moved us to Charlotte, North Carolina. And Tricia, I didn't know a single soul out there. I mean, I was just moving in, but volunteering when you walk into an area, and I gotta say this, a lot of the jobs come from who you know. You just might meet that one person who you know, and you might find the career you're looking for.
Right. We were just talking about that with my boss at this other job I'm doing, and we said the same thing that lots of times it's who you know, and if you don't know anybody when you've just moved there, you've got to find a way to do it. And volunteering is a great way to meet people and kind of get your foot in the door in a good job.
Absolutely. Now, Tricia, what would be the difference between, let's say, someone who's elderly who needs help, and then someone who has special needs? Would there be different training for a volunteer to be able to volunteer for those individuals?
No, I kind of mix it all in there and talk about both as I'm doing the training. There's most of my individuals that come in with the elderly. I have most of the ones who have disabilities because that's where my expertise lies. But we have Wayne Sellers, who was the former director of our Department of Human Resources in Marshall County. He's one of our volunteers, and he has an individual with disabilities, and he really enjoys them and takes them and does things. Another gentleman that I have that's a guardian, he has two who have special needs, and he's very involved in their lives. He takes them fishing, he takes them out to eat, he does a lot of good things with them, and they have that support from him. Sorry about the phone again.
No, that's okay. No, we know you guys are busy, and that's awesome. That's really good. I've been doing a study on crosswords. I have crossword puzzles. I have an aunt, Aunt Elizabeth Burgess, and she's 100 years old. And I'm gonna tell you what, she has more brain stay power than any of us do. And she attributes it to, first of all, she likes to memorize Bible verses. She says that's the number one reason. Then the second reason is she loves crossword puzzles. That might be a fun thing to do. You go out and you volunteer and you help somebody with a crossword puzzle, you're helping yourself and that patient as well.
Yes. My mom does the same thing. She does word searches, and that's what she says. I want to keep my mind working. But yeah, that would be fun things to do. And that's little gifts you can take them. That's inexpensive. You go to the dollar store and grab one for $1, and have them with a book, and then y'all sit down and work on it. Puzzles are also good to work on together to help with memory. And so there's lots of little activities that you can do with them that, as you said, help you and help them.
Yeah, and I need all the help I can get. I need to go hang out with Aunt Elizabeth. She still lives in the house by herself. She's in the house by herself, and just,
That's amazing. That is amazing.
Yeah. But she also says, well, I lived a clean life. I didn't drink. I didn't do, drugs or anything like that. And one time I asked her, I said, did they have drugs back in your day? She said, yeah, they were back then too. I mean, so it's going on. But, hanging out with her telling you stories and stuff like that, that's pretty awesome. And again, guys, that's another reason to go on ahead and volunteer. You just never know what you might learn. Tricia, we have a little bit over 2 minutes left in this segment. What would you like to tell the folks before you go?
That if they're interested in volunteering, they can call me at 256-388-9851. They can go to our website, gapmarshallco.com. They can email me at gapmarshallco@outlook.com and get any information they want. In fact, I had one lady email me the other day, and I sent her an application, and I just got it back in the mail. So, I mean, everything that we have, I can meet you anywhere. I can accommodate in any way I can to get volunteers and help our people.
She will. I'm going to tell you what, Tricia Hopper's an awesome person. Very fun. I mean, I would think that it would just be fun to work with you on the volunteer program.
Well, thank you. I hope so.
Lots of laughter out there. Tricia, we're going to go ahead and go into a commercial break. I sure do appreciate you coming on the show today.
All right. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Love you bunches, okay?
Love you too. Bye-bye.
Okay, folks, let's go ahead and get ready for a commercial break, and we're going to be right back in just a few minutes. I've got Jail coming in, and he's going to be another fun, awesome guest as well. So y'all hang in there, okay? Be right back.
I said, God, you gotta move this mountain. I just don't see it any other way. I'm too weak to make the climb. I need a miracle this time. That's when I heard the voice from heaven say,